Okay, so Roger, we had talked before this discussion a little bit about, we already covered our thoughts on the first Greatest Attorney in a previous discussion. But now we've all played the official release of the translation.
We did play 1 before we played 2. We could have skipped it, I think, but we decided we're just going to play the real stuff.
Yeah, I wanted to refresh myself on a lot of the plot points, which I'm glad I did.
Yeah, that was a good reason to replay 1. I think it also speaks to the fact that we all really liked the first Greatest Attorney.
Yeah, I mean, no problem playing it.
It was kind of like, yeah, sure. I love these characters. I love my time there. So I just want to get out and say this right away. Scarlet Study did a really fantastic job.
Yes.
They really did.
Yes.
Because the official release, I think, was as good as the rest of the Ace Attorney official English releases, which is quite high quality. But I really feel like Scarlet Studies stands up there with it, personally.
Yeah.
I can agree.
Yeah.
I think that, in my opinion, the official translation is better for me because it has the same flow as official releases. It's what I'm used to.
Yeah.
So like when they, the quality jokes, the way that the dialogue kind of goes through itself, like I'm just like, this is familiar. I like this.
Yeah. And I do want to shout out the official translation because there was some really great interview with Janet Shu, I think is how her last name is pronounced. The head localizer since like the first or second game, where she talked about the amount of research that she put into making sure that the words used were like not anachronistic. Like, one of the examples she gave was the word backstab was not invented yet at this time period.
Ooh,
so
that makes it so tricky.
Yeah, so she put a lot of thought into when the Japanese honorifics are used and not, and it's like when Susato and Ryunosuke are alone together, they will use honorifics to show that they're speaking in Japanese because they're alone together, and then they speak in English the rest of the time. So like, there's a lot of thought that went into it that I just really respect.
Yeah, it's great. It's a great touch, really.
I also think it's funny, the patrolman and his wife in the fourth case.
Oh yeah, Pat and Rolla in the Scarlet Study version.
Yeah, and like Pat is the guy in Scarlet Study and Pat is the girl in the official one, or vice versa. I don't remember, but like
I know
it's swapped, and I just thought that was funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Funny.
Let's see. So anything as far as adding to stuff we noticed in the first Ace Attorney before getting to Greatest Attorney 2? Okay, in case 1, I remember very vividly that Kazuma makes... I'm going to say Kazuma instead of Asugi because even though Asugi is what I was used to with the Scarlet Study, I just read Kazuma so many times.
Yeah.
Sure.
That, like, I'm just used to it now. Anyway, so he makes it really obvious that he has some weird mission in 1, and I didn't notice that shit at all when I first played it.
Same. And, I talked to one of my friends about this at the time, that I was like, oh, I noticed that Asogi made it, like, really clear that it was, like, whatever, like this mission. And this friend, who I don't know if they'll listen to this, but they were like, I mean, that was so obvious. They said that, like, the original. I was like, okay, I didn't catch it.
I mean, me neither, so you're not alone.
Yeah. So yeah, and we already said full spoiler disclaimer. So last chance to not be spoiled on Greatest Attorney 2. 1, 2, 3. So Asogi's alive. And
he is.
they I think I went into playing 1 looking for clues about it because I so badly wanted him to survive.
Yes, because we didn't know, but we both really wanted him to be alive. So I remember playing the second case when he dies, and like looking for any way that it could work. And I came up with a whole theory that was not true, but was kind of close. Mm-hmm. About, like, my theory involved, like, there's some throwaway mention of a ship that they pass in the night.
Oh, right.
And, like, that isn't really ever brought up again, but I was like, oh, that must be when Sholmes gets Asogi off board. Like, he puts him on this other ship, and that's not really what happens, but...
Right.
It kind of is,
There was definitely... It kind of is, yeah.
It's just that Sholmes isn't doing it.
Okay, so hang on. We just touched on something about the official translation. So, Herlock Sholmes. I personally, I'm okay with it. I do wish that they had gone with Homelock Shears, just because I find that one funnier. But Herlock Sholmes is still pretty good.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I was gonna say too that it's really cool to read the first game, or it was, looking for clues about Asogi's possible survival.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Even the judge mentions it in case 1. He says it to.
Oh, like about like the
Kazuma.
mission, right?
Yes, he's like, do your
Yeah.
mission, and I'm like, how did I notice this? It's so on the nose. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Well, I think I read somewhere that this wasn't the intention. Like, they retconned it.
Oh,
It was
interesting.
like when they
Oh.
were working on the second game, they decided they wanted to bring Asogi back, but that wasn't the original intention.
Oh.
I think I
Huh.
think I read that.
That would be really
That would be
interesting.
fascinating.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if so, they did a great job.
Yeah. But yeah, I also like the English voice cast in the cutscenes whenever they speak.
Yeah.
Oh, they do a great job.
Yeah.
Yeah, really good.
Anything specific? Okay, so I can say that I don't know if I mentioned it last time, but the idea in Case 5 in the first game where you have one song just for the last cross-examination in the entire game, that is so
Oh,
baller.
yeah.
That is such a good design
yeah.
choice.
During Egg Benedict's final stand.
Yeah.
Yes, his name will always be Egg Benedict.
I'm not I refuse to acknowledge his real name.
Yeah, what they changed.
Yep.
Well, and they also changed it. Which, by the way, like I get it. But they called him Eggert Benedict in the official
I
release.
get it, but it's Egg.
Because I mean, there's such an amazing, funny moment of playing the Scarlet Study version. It's like, what's your name? Egg Benedict, and I'm like, yes, it is. That is always going to
Yep.
be your name from now on. Plus, he kind of looks like an egg, so you know.
He does. He does. Speaking of names, I have a list of all the Ace Attorney cases up, and in between DGS 1 and DGS 2 is Spirit of Justice, and I just want to say that the victim in the first case of Spirit of Justice is named Pat Roll.
Oh my gosh.
So that's 3 characters
That's
now.
true.
Yeah,
Oh my
that's-
god, it is him.
And by the way, I've remembered now. If I think this is right. In Scarlet Study, it was the girl was Pat, and no, it was the guy was Pat, the girl was Rolla, and then
Right.
in this one, the guy was Rolly and she was Pat.
Yes.
And she was Pat.
Yes.
Yeah, Pat Rowley. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep. So yeah, they
Anyway.
there's a couple variations of that joke now.
Yep.
Oh, that's great. But yeah, I think we're good to talk about 2 if y'all are.
2. Yeah. All right,
Yes.
I got some general thoughts. Let's see. In this case, there are less summations, which I think is not a bad idea.
Sorry, are you talking
Because-
about the
Yeah.
game or case 1?
I'm talking about in general,
Okay.
just for like the entirety of 2 versus 1.
Gotcha.
So in 2, there are less summations, which I think is actually a pretty good idea because
Yeah.
if you use it all the time, like when it first got introduced, I understand using it like 2 or 3 times, whatever, because he's new at this. But it's like at this point, if you have to do like 2 or 3 every single case, it really just takes away the weight of the idea of like this is your last chance kind of a thing.
Yes.
You're
definitely.
talking about when it's like the jury, like you have to cross-examine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they call it summation arguments.
Yeah,
in
the
this,
summation.
which is like
yeah.
yeah, the defense is to go up and be like, yo, this is why the jury's wrong, basically. Which the music for that is really cool too. I didn't notice it until I played the second game, like pretty deep into it. Which is there's like this back and forth in the music, which I guess is supposed to mimic the idea of you countering each different voice of the
Oh,
jury.
sure,
Because
yeah.
there's different instruments that keep coming up.
That's cool.
That is cool. I'm gonna have to check that out a little closely. 'Cause I missed
Yeah,
that.
I didn't notice.
Speaking of the music, actually, just in general, this game uses alternative and like build-up themes so damn well.
Well, and that's
all
a great
the time.
that's a great segue into case 1, the adventure of the blossoming attorney, where you get to play as Susato, and
Yes.
and you get an objection variant of her theme song, which
Yes.
is so cool. It's such
I think she gets 2 songs. She gets her objection. She gets like prelude to
Right.
like the great.
I think so. Yeah.
I mean, dude, she rules.
I love her.
because Susato is one of my favorite parts of both games, really. I
Yeah.
loved her so much in Greatest Attorney 1, so getting to play as her for Greatest Attorney 2, that made this first case like an instant win for me. I enjoyed it so much, and I love her so much, and I love her friend being like, "Whoa, you're hot!" Like,
Yes.
this is great.
Let's see. Do I have anything very specific? Oh, I mean, so Seki's in this case, and
Soseki's in every case.
Yes.
he does something interesting
love
that I
Soseki.
almost didn't notice, but he alludes a couple of times that you guys helped him twice, and I was like, huh.
Oh yeah.
No, we didn't.
Yes. I was so confused.
It's subtly enough in there that it's like you really have to kind of like pay attention. You could easily just
Sure.
past it, but I mean, like it's just there, and you're like,
Yeah.
no.
You know, at first it was kind of a weird, like, I don't want to call it an ass pull, but like I don't know, it was kind of like, oh, there was this other case that happened back then, and like now we're just going there. But I would take any excuse to spend more time with the characters in Greatest Attorney, so I didn't really mind going back in time like that. But yeah, it was cool how 2-1 set that up. Another thing I really liked about 2-1 was the villain reveal, or rather, not when they reveal who the villain is, but the first time you see that character is in a throwaway sprite almost for Soseki.
Yeah.
Where it's like the reporter behind him.
Yeah.
I thought that was really cool.
Yeah. I mean, speaking of the reporter, this kind of gets into like how he's the bad guy, but I mean, why did he just admit that he stabbed her? Because it was literally just his word against Suzuto's theory, and she had no evidence other than the fact that he took a picture. And I'm just sitting there like, he just randomly says, "Oh, you got me," and it's like, what?
I think here's my theory. He's just a guy, and he got in over his head.
Sure.
And I think, because if I recall
broke down on the
correctly,
stand.
Yeah, he's not like an evil killer. He thought she was like going to betray Japan or something. So like it was a crime of passion, if I'm remembering correctly.
It's good enough. You can just chalk it up to human error,
Yeah,
really.
but you're right.
He thought the shady business was too much, I think. Like, the fact that she was getting off scot-free, for example.
Yeah.
When he's getting taken away at the end, he reveals to Ryunosuke, he's like that Kazuma's body was never found, for example.
Right.
And like, he's like talking about like the... Or no, not to Ryunosuke, to Ryutaro.
Ryutaro, yes.
Whatever her name
Suzuto.
is. Yeah. But yeah, like all the kind of shady nature of everything, which is cool. But yeah, 2-1's good. It's and also the double takedown with Suzuto and her friend.
Oh yeah.
That's the culprit. That
That
really
was good.
Yeah.
Gotta love that.
This case made me really suspicious of Suzuto's dad. Because
yeah,
he's
for
good
reason.
so shady about the How Did the Baskerville stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It also made me suspicious of Judge Jigoku. Because he had a sprite.
Yeah.
Or
It's
like
okay.
a model outside of the bench, and I'm like, whoa, dude, you're gonna be a killer or an
Yeah,
important
you just
character
gotta get
or
meta
something,
with it.
A killer
Yeah.
or a victim for sure.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay, cool. So then we go back in time for the second case.
Okay, before we talk about the actual going back in time, they open up the case with Ryunosuke talking to Suzuto, which... I'm sorry, not Suzuto, to Iris. They're talking about, like, the fact that he didn't really do much in Suzuto's absence. And I'm like,
Sure.
in my head, I'm
yeah.
why did you close this off? You could have just left it open and then, put in some other stuff here, like sprinkle in some Ryunosuke adventures, but they just close it off. And I'm like, you know what, Capcom, I would be okay if you retcon this because it really doesn't mean anything.
I mean, I would be okay with just like having a Greatest Attorney 3 that took place in that gap, because I just
That's what I'm
Yeah.
saying.
That's-
Why close it? It's
I
just
kind of love the idea of like Ryunosuke's useless without Suzuto though. I don't know.
Well, and I think in this particular case, like the plot justification for it was that he gave away government secrets.
Oh right, so
He
was
can't
not
do it.
allowed to.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Like so no one would hire him. He wasn't gonna get gigs thrown his way. Although, jumping ahead a little bit, literally the first time he goes to Strongheart to ask for like the permission to stand in court again, Strongheart's like, okay, go to court right now. It's like, okay.
classic.
But yeah, 2-2. I love this case. I really love this case. I love William Shakespeare.
He's
Like,
pretty funny.
His animations.
Every single one of his animations gets me so good. The one where he just perpetually is like gyrating his arms back and forth,
Like
Yes.
windmilling.
like
Yeah.
that shit got me so good. I love his Shakespeare dance.
Yes.
I love the way he talks. He reminds me of one of my friends. It's just great.
You know what's funny is there's one part where he wakes up from being poisoned and then he starts reciting something. I forget what he's reciting, but Gregson finishes his shit, and I'm like, Gregson's a fan of theater? What?
Oh, I love the fact that Shakespeare and Soseki were arguing about who would win in a fight between Romeo and Juliet.
Dude, that is so funny. That is so
'Cause
freaking funny.
It's like the modern like anime discourse, but
Yes.
with that, it's like, what were they arguing about? Like the literary merits? No, it was about who.
No.
And then they dressed up as Romeo and Juliet, and Soseki I think won as
He
Juliet.
was as Juliet, yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, that is such
Oh,
a
man.
funny way. It's like, okay, I'm gonna dress up as her, and you're gonna dress up as him, and we're gonna see who actually wins.
Oh,
This is
it's
fair.
so funny.
It's this case was really funny because of like Shakespeare and stuff like that. It's also really sad.
Ooh, olive
Yeah.
green though.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's just very sad.
Yeah, there's this really, really tragic part where she tries to kill herself, and it's really rough.
Oh man, yeah.
I will say it is somehow, like, in some way tastefully portrayed, because, like, they don't sugarcoat it, but they don't really focus on it. Like, oh, look at her, she's the girl who tried to, like, commit suicide.
It's not sensational, yeah.
It's just something that happens, because that's what, it just happens sometimes.
They pay it off really well, too. Like, Ryunosuke being so glad that he stopped her, and she kind of thanks him at the end when all is said and done.
Yeah, when you see the rat die, and then Sholmes is like, yo, and then Ryunosuke somehow isn't catching on.
Yeah.
But I really enjoyed Olive and that whole thing. I didn't guess the method of murder, that like the blowing into the gas pipes or whatever.
Yeah,
that was kind of interesting. Shamspeare sucks, by the way, as much as I love him.
Yeah, like, he's really funny, but he's the worst.
Yeah, not a good... This case, actually, I don't remember the specifics, but that was an example of me trying to prove something logically for a long time before they let me, with the coin and the soap or whatever.
Oh, that was so obvious.
Yeah,
I remember being like, okay, so that's how those were made or whatever, and he put it in the thing. And it took forever for me to get to the point where I could say that.
Yeah, you have to, like, bring the juror on the stand and start talking about, like, gas. And I'm like, dude, I already know how it was done. I already know.
Yeah. That's funny. But yeah, overall, really fun case. They introduced, like, the intrigue, I guess. Because I remember the whole case, I was like, okay, well, what about this case was so harrowing?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, what does this have to do with the Hound of the Baskervilles and stuff?
And I will say that's maybe not like a huge problem, but the actual case itself has nothing to do with it until the very end. The criminal's treasure that you find was a collar that had blood on it.
Yeah.
But and then it's like, okay, so maybe there was a moment of that where, like, I went into the case being like, okay, this is gonna be juicy. What's going on?
Yeah,
and it wasn't
that's
until
really not.
Yeah, the epilogue where you find out everything else. But yeah, any other thoughts about case 2 before we move on?
It's good.
Yeah, liked it.
It's good stuff. And by the way,
It's
that's a theme for Greatest Attorney 2.
Yeah.
Like, it's good stuff.
So I mean, Ace Attorney and Greatest Attorney in general, I don't think there's a single clunky case. I mean, you could probably argue 2 or 4 in the first one are a little bit whatever, but they're not bad.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah.
No, I personally don't have a case that I find bad in any of the Greatest Attorney games. Okay, cool. So then, moving on to the Return of the Great Departed Soul, which, you know, you could complain about that being a spoiler, but they don't even really try to hide that Asogi's alive. Like,
yeah, as
no,
soon
it's
as
very
you
obvious.
run into him, in Baroque von Zeke's office, there's like a dude in a hood kneeling, and you're like, oh, okay.
I mean, hell, I'll be real on 2 things. Even before that, one, the newspaper article at the beginning where Baroque is with a masked swordsman. It's like, okay, that's Asogi maybe, but no, even more than that. I have the Japanese box for the second game.
Oh, right.
Which somehow I didn't look at for years because I genuinely didn't get spoiled on this really. But he's on there with his mask, like Asogi, like the Masked Knight, and I was like, okay. That looking at it now, I'm like, that's pretty obvious.
It is really obvious.
And I'm also glad that they don't mess around too much. Like, okay, Ryunosuke does have a moment of like, that's probably Asogi, but I'm not gonna say anything, even though that's definitely him. Like, they don't make it like, who is that man? But then when Susato shows up, she's like, Asogi, like Kazuma, it's you, right?
Like instantly, yeah.
Yeah,
and there's no doubt. And I mean, like, the case doesn't really expect you to be like, wow, who is that? Like, they're like, this is on the nose and we know it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I also like his animations behind Baroque von Zeke's.
Yes.
Those are fun.
Oh, and he's like, he pops the bottle for him. Yeah, that shit's cool.
Yeah.
He like slices it off.
He sabers that.
Yes, with his sword. Yeah.
That's great.
Good stuff.
Susato showing up during the case. That was a great moment.
Also, Gina is an inspector now.
Yes,
it's so good. She's so happy. She's so happy in this case.
She's
and
got
it's
her smile
all the time. I love her.
Yeah, because she really never smiled in the first game until the very end.
Yeah.
But in case 2, all of her animation, or in game 2, all of her animations is so good.
There's the whole wax thing, which is a really interesting place, and then Sholmes has to be a wax figure, which is really funny.
That was really funny.
That was really funny.
Case 3, by the way, we were talking about music before.
Scythe.
Courtney's Scythe. Her theme song is so good. It's so good. In fact, one of my biggest complaints about this game is that Courtney's Scythe is only in Case 3.
It's so weird. They set her up like she's gonna be really important. And
Yeah.
then
And
she
she's
just
not.
isn't.
And we get her theme music because of, well, she is important.
Well, she is. She's
She's
not on
referenced.
screen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like she's important to things that happen, and then you get her daughter instead, which another thing they never explain, and I guess they don't really need to, is the fact that she has a different last name, Maria Gori or whatever.
Yeah.
It's
just like don't even. It was just kind of a weird thing to leave unexplained.
Yeah, and it's like, I guess like that happens in the real world sometimes.
Sure,
kids have
yeah,
different
but
lists,
this is video game.
It's a video.
It feels
Everything, dang it.
significant.
Yeah, it does feel. Yeah, when you first see it, because it's Ace Attorney too, so you see a different last name, and you're like, okay, I'm gonna wait for a character named Gory to show up or something.
Yeah.
Kind of figure that out, but
Nope.
no.
Yeah.
But yeah, Courtney Scythe is interesting. The whole Hairbrain, he has a really good theme song too.
He's eccentric and
And
funny.
great animations.
Love him.
Yep.
Yeah.
Drebber.
Drebber,
Trevor's animations are next level.
his animations are so good.
There is a Japanese person that I follow on Twitter, the creator of Hatoful Boyfriend, who played Great Ace Attorney in English. And she talked a lot about something I never noticed, which is that a lot of Drebber's dialogue has, like, machinery terms in it. So he'll use, like, you know, we have to bolt out of here, or, like...
Oh yeah.
He just uses a lot of words like that, just that feel very natural and you don't notice them, but it has to have been on purpose. It's just really cool.
That is really cool.
Yeah, this case in general is just really good. I mean, even little stuff, like I remember in the beginning of the case when, like, the first trial day where you're trying to figure out, like, the balloon stuff, and you get the balloon guy, and that kid is so funny, by the way. The god,
that kid.
he's just like I'm rich, and then he fights
I'm
with the
very
balloon guy,
rich.
and then he buys balloons,
Yeah.
and then he cries with umlauts. It's so funny.
It's the best.
That crying with umlaut is really good. Yeah, he was funny. I also love speaking of funny, the great deduction or whatever with the time bomb.
Yes.
The
Anti-gravity device or whatever.
Yeah, well, it's really funny because, like, okay, I have this personal analysis of Sholmes that a lot of times, and I think this is true, he is pulling everyone else's leg by being really dumb, but sometimes he is also, I think, just really, really dumb.
Yes.
Which, this is an example of that. Because
Yes.
it's like, no, it's an anti-gravity device. And you go through this literal whole thing about the anti-gravity device. It's like, at the very end, it's like, okay, this place is going to explode because that's a bomb.
Yeah.
Oh,
I
it's so
think
good.
there's one point where if you talk about a certain detail, if you get something wrong and you mention how it's not a gravity device, he's just like, of course it isn't. In the middle of it. And I'm just like,
Oh my gosh.
Really?
Oh, that's so funny.
You know,
Man.
this case isn't too hard, but there was a part where I got stumped, which was you have to, like, find the mask in a 10-year-old article or something, and that's how Drebber knew that he saw the professor.
right.
And I was like, what the hell am I looking
yeah.
for? Like, I was so confused.
Yeah.
And I remember I was
'cause
just
it's
like...
like the
ugh.
face, like he couldn't have seen the face.
Yeah, and it's just, like, buried in an article. And it's just like, okay.
Yeah.
I got stuck there too. That is one of the few times in this game, or either Greatest Attorney, that I literally just presented things till I got the right answer. Because I had no idea, and I don't remember what I was presenting, but I was like, I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, the article.
Yeah.
Mhm.
There was some point where I got stuck as well. Something to do with, like, the balloons or where somebody had to be standing or where the body was. I don't even remember what it was, but I know I was stuck for a long time.
Yeah, but yeah, it was a really good case. Another thing that's really nice about Case 3 is it's the first time that Baroque von Zieks shows trust in Ryunosuke.
Yes!
That's a cool thing.
That part is so good. Okay, so there's that whole thing where Ryunosuke is like, he knows there's like a greater truth at the very end. He's like, he could just stop. He could just stop the case, win, get innocence for his client, but he's like,
Right.
I'm not gonna let the thing with McGilded happen again. I'm gonna, like, dig this
Yeah.
deeper. And then you start hearing the prelude to, like, Pursuit, and I'm like, damn, this shit's so good. Oh, man.
Yeah. Ryunosuke's arc in both games is really solid.
Yes.
Because even in the first game, like, McGilded really messes him up.
Yeah.
Like that whole experience, and he has to push through that to defend Gina because he believes in her. So it works out. But in this game, like what Roger was talking about, he's still, like, grappling with that sort of thing, and he goes until he finally gets Scythe convicted, because that's, like, the truth behind the case and all that.
I think this is also the case where they start talking about the like real legend of the Reaper and how, like, it's not probably actually Baroque von Zieks. Like it's
right, yeah, I know what
feel
you're
like
talking about.
yeah, hints are sort of dropped for that, and I don't remember if they come out insane in this case where Baroque is telling his friend, Hairbrain, like, leave the country. You're
He
not
does
safe
at the
here.
very end, yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
It's good intrigue.
It is, yeah. That build-up is really good. It's funny because like they literally introduced Baroque von Zieks as the Reaper of the Bailey, so it's like, okay, that's him. But then you learn about the Reaper as in the entity that kills the defendants in those cases.
Yeah.
And then in game 2 they really go into that, which is as good of a segue as any. If you guys want to talk about case 4 and 5, you guys.
So real fast though, is
Yeah.
case 3 the one that ends with the reveal of the professor?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Where Cosmo like freaks out and he's like, "Oh, I don't have
Yeah.
amnesia anymore." Yeah.
I did call that one.
You called that it was his dad?
Yeah, I did.
That's a
Proud of that
hell of a call.
Yeah.
Oh, I will say I really enjoyed, just as a Sherlock Holmes fan, that they started using the professor, like that idea of like
Yeah.
a criminal mastermind, which I'm also really happy that they don't actually do a Moriarty in this story.
It's a very good like bait and switch for anyone who knows Sherlock Holmes stories.
Right. Yeah, when you hear about the professor, if you are like a Holmes fan and you're playing this, you might be like, oh, they're going to do like a Moriarty type character. But they really heavily subvert that, which I like.
They have
Yeah.
very good, tasteful like adaptations, like the whole Giselle Bullet being the Sasha's like real, like her moniker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I even love, and this is such a fun little reference, literally the first time Sholmes meets Ryunosuke in 1-2, he talks about how he's like from Afghanistan or whatever.
Yeah.
Or, like, and that's one of the in Study in Scarlet, the first Holmes book. That's like one of his deductions about one of the people in the book is that they had
Right.
recently been in Afghanistan or whatever. Which is it's just really funny. It's like you are recently from Afghanistan or whatever, and it's like bullshit, but it's also a fun little reference to the first Holmes book. It's really
Yeah.
good. But yeah, that ending of case 3, where Asogi like sees his dad.
I forgot that he had amnesia. I actually totally forgot about that. But yeah, that's when he remembers.
They do kind of, and if you guys are cool with it, I'm going to segue this into talking about sort of the rest of the game with
Yeah.
Asogi. They do kind of a weird thing with Asogi where it's like he gets his memories back, but then he doesn't really act like a friend to Suzoto and Ryunosuke.
Yeah.
Which I get it, like lots going on, like for him. But I remember
Yeah.
being kind of like, you got your memory back. Let's go have a party and talk about things and come up with a
Yeah.
game plan from here on out.
Well-
but instead it's like he's an antagonist still.
It's more like I kind of read that as he's just so zeroed in on like getting revenge for his dad that he literally doesn't give a he doesn't care about anything else. He's just like
Yeah.
killer mode.
And that was his mission and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And straight up, favorite thing about Case 4 right out the gate is the fact that Asogi is the prosecutor. I love
Yes. Yes.
And his WeWork theme, oh my god.
that. Yes. Oh my god. It's like a mix of like Baroque von Zieks instrumentation with his theme song, with Asogi's theme song.
Yeah.
So
well, and
good.
his whole outfit is more like it's English. It's not Japanese anymore.
Yes. Yeah.
So the person that dies here is Gregson.
Correct.
Oh my god, Gregson's death? That was what? I wasn't expecting it.
No, me neither.
Honestly,
Dude,
I
when
don't.
and then
no.
you have Sholmes who's like freaking out, like, damn, I let this guy down. I'm like, man, Sholmes is really taking this hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and poor Gina.
Yeah.
Really poor Gina. Like, especially after you get like Happy Gina in Case 3.
Yeah.
Like it's so rough. And they kind of do something interesting with Gregson, where it's like at the end of the day he wasn't really innocent, which is just kind
Yeah.
of I like that.
It's gray. It's really gray.
It is
Very.
great. And like I mean Gregson also he makes it known in the first game like he tried to get Gina convicted to conceal state secrets.
Yeah.
So like we already knew Gregson could kind of like not necessarily be like 100% morally clear, which is it's realistic. So it was cool also to have Gregson be involved with like the actual Reaper. I just thought it was really interesting.
Yeah. It was a really brave, I guess,
Sure.
kind of story. Like, I'm thinking about detectives in the Ace Attorney series, and they tend to either be like, you got your kind of bumbling guy who does the right thing, like Gumshoe. You have like the cool guy, like Tyrell Bad,
So cool.
and you have the Dual Destinies guy whose name is escaping me, who is
Fulbright.
straight up, who's like a villain. And then Gregson is just like he's very believable.
He's like a person.
He feels
Yeah.
like a person, like he is trying to do the right thing and got caught up in some bad stuff, and so he does more bad things to like continue to try and uphold justice, maybe,
Yeah.
but it's too much. He's in over his head. But then he does the right thing with Gina. Like, he's really trying
Yep.
to help her out
Yeah.
and keep her safe. And
Yeah,
it's just
man.
really good.
Just while we're talking about Gregson, his little epilogue too, because they give you a credits epilogue with Gregson.
Right, where he's like
yeah.
writing something. Ugh.
Well, he was basically saying like, Gina, I can't explain everything to you right now, but like, I want to get you safe. Like,
I wanted you to come to
Yeah.
France with me. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That. So like, I mean, it makes you feel for Gregson, but yeah. One thing that's interesting about Case 4 and 5 is how they blend together.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you can't really play one without the other.
No, in fact, that's why I feel like we should just talk about it as one kind of big
I
thing.
agree.
Because,
Yeah.
like, I remember when I finished Case 4, it was like during an investigation. It's like, okay, this is obviously not resolved. And then Case 5 is just like the giant trial with the one little cool segment in
The
it.
secret
But yeah,
trial.
but talking about like the first part of all this, like the Case 4 stuff, Gregson's death was pretty wild. It's really hard to see Gina.
Dude, Cosmo's so pissed this whole case. He's just so mad.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I love how in court, Asogi or Cosmo, whatever, you know, both names work. He approaches his prosecution like a defense attorney.
Yeah.
I feel like it's all like presenting evidence and like giving logic. It feels very attorney-like, and I think Suzuto even like mentions that at one point. He does need to chill though.
He does need to
Oh,
chill.
yeah.
He's very pissed. I actually wrote... So when I was writing stuff down while playing it, I apparently quoted this. I don't remember where it's from in this case, but it's pretty funny. So apparently Sholmes at one point says, in other words, my memory is sublimely unreliable, which I think kind of describes him as a character. So that's probably why I wrote it down.
Pretty
That
much,
is really
yeah.
funny.
Oh, it was probably towards the end of Case 4 where you're back in Sholmes' flat, and then they do the dance of deduction because he just what is his name? Mikotoba.
Mikotoba.
He's just on the couch passed out, and you're like, why?
Yo,
The weird German song is playing.
Okay, I was gonna say the intro to that, where like you walk into the room, the German song is playing, Sholmes and Mikotoba are passed out, and Iris has like the dog shame look, and
Yes,
she's like looking down at the
yes.
ground and won't talk to you. I thought that was hilarious. I
She-
really liked that.
Isn't it that she has the key in her mouth, which is just like, what?
Yeah.
Yeah, and also that's a deduction where you get to play Suzuto for a bit of it too.
Yeah,
Oh,
she comes
yeah.
in, she
If I remember.
swoops in.
Yeah, that was funny.
That was fun.
Yeah, that was a really fun dance of deduction. The Case 3 and Case 4 dance of deductions I think were my favorite out of all of them in both games.
Well, I think the really good one's in Case 5, isn't it?
Oh,
To
that's the
start
best
Case
one in
5
the-
is the best
yeah.
one, yes.
Oh
Yeah,
my
yeah,
god, no,
yeah.
okay, well, and I wasn't even thinking about that, because to me that's like in its whole like
Yeah.
separate league. Which, by the way, that's something to talk about right now. What my read of that scene was, it was essentially a reveal that like when Sholmes was with Ryunosuke, he was egging him on in a lot of ways. Also a dummy, like I said.
Yeah.
But like with Mikotoba, he had every single spot right away.
Yeah.
He's not playing around.
And also the tap dancing Mikotoba. That
so
was
good.
That was so good. Oh, but like the
I
first
love it.
time you do it, and he's like dum, and he like does like a little pose. And then
Yeah.
like the spotlight. Oh my god.
So,
It's just fantastic.
before the dance of deduction, there is this little part that kind of snuck in and bothered me a little bit. It doesn't bother me as something else, but you'll be able to realize what the bigger thing is bothering me when I say it. The little thing that bothers me is they have like these little dolls that have like radios in them, and I'm just like,
Oh,
yeah, this doesn't make sense, because it's like, oh, just tug on it, and then it's like it's tugging on his ear. I'm like, this doesn't exist. Like,
and then the big one would be the hologram.
the hologram really took me out at the end. I'm like, damn, you really gotta
Yeah,
Deus
yeah.
Ex Machina this. Like, I was just thinking, like, okay, this is not.
Okay, but like in that moment's defense, you have Sholmes doing a little dance. While
It's
the guards
so
are coming
funny.
at him.
I'll give it
It's
that.
very funny.
which just for that, I feel like that cancels it out for me. Like the negative feelings I might have had, like that's good
Yeah.
enough to cancel it out for just me personally.
Mhm.
I can
It is
understand.
a valid criticism. They do
Yeah.
set up Iris as like, you know, obviously being a genius inventor and everything, but those were a little bit further. But
Yeah.
it was so much fun. that
The
I
way he
didn't care.
explains it too. The thing that I think the thing that kept me like out of it for a while is that Ryunosuke's like, Sholmes, how are you doing this? And then he goes like, it's just sending images, and I'm like, yeah, it's not that simple. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
You know, they could have accomplished the same thing with like a recording device, or even literally just like a video capture thing that like Iris invented.
Like a
which still
real,
would've
yeah,
been-
yeah, like a really rudimentary camera would have worked.
Right. Like
Yeah,
it still
yeah.
would have been like ahead of the time period, but like it would have been like, okay, Iris is obviously 100 years ahead of her time. She
Yeah.
could come up with like a really simple like camera device, maybe even like, I don't know, like that like directly feeds it to the queen without it being holograms.
I guess that's really what it is we don't really have that kind of hologram technology like now. Like we kind of do, but not really.
Yeah, the radio thing you can kind of like pause a little bit. I mean, the tugging stuff
Yeah.
is like really out there,
That's
but
a little much.
But like
yeah.
a little like piece in your ear that you can hear, like okay, I can forgive that a little bit. Like I'm not gonna be bothered.
Yeah.
But as far as the trial goes, this trial gets real sad a lot, and
Yeah.
Sure.
I'm remembering there's this theme for what's that guy's name? Vigil. Daily Vigil, I think his name is.
Oh.
Yeah.
When he has like
the
the
really
repressed
spooky
memories, and it's like
Yes.
yeah, like this little hollow thing, and I'm like, damn, that's good. I think it's like tapping on an oil lamp or something. I remember looking something
Yeah.
up about this.
When he's like losing it, that music is so unsettling.
His animations are really good too. Like he
Yeah.
as a character is very sad and very well done.
Because he's gossip. Which, by the way,
Yes.
Yep.
in case 4, it's so funny when the whole court is like, a couple of times they tell Ryunosuke, even Kazuma gets on it, they're like, buy the guy's stuff, and then buy the woman's firecrackers, you have to buy it. And it's just like, damn, that's funny.
Yeah, and he's like talking about like, this one couple had twins after Ryunosuke like paid him. It's really good. Yeah, no, but that was a good reveal. The Daily Vigil thing is kind of a cool payoff, because I was wondering from the beginning of the case when you meet his wife, who,
Yeah.
oh, by the way, that's something I wanted to mention really briefly. I liked the Case 3 jury, because to me they were the first jury in the series that was like actually competent. Like,
Yes.
I remember like most of them were like reasonable people, and maybe that speaks to what Roger was talking about, like how they don't do summation as much because
Yeah.
they were more like, you know, listening to the case and kind of hearing it out. But yeah, then his wife, Evie Vigil, I think.
Yeah. Or Evie.
Evening Vigil. Yeah, she, like, at the beginning you're looking for him, and then they kind of pay that off later with the flat that he and Gregson were using.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was interesting stuff. And, like, the whole reveal that he hadn't been working at the jail for, like, 10 years, and his tying into the Reaper thing back then, which, by the way, I really like all of the stuff with, Clint Von Zieks, and, like, that
Yeah.
whole backstory with the Reaper. I found that stuff really compelling, personally.
I think there was a thin line for them to walk there to like really pull it off and not make anybody too villainous or too innocent. I don't know. I feel like they really pulled it off where like you feel for Clint, but also he was guilty.
You know, yeah, because I think at the end of the day, Clint only does one murder of his own. of course.
Yeah, and then it's what's his face comes in and blackmails
Yeah,
him.
which I'll be real. Personally, it would have been just maybe a little bit more compelling for me had Clint killed more than one person, because they almost make it out to be like he did almost nothing wrong. Like he killed like a really corrupt noble lord, and then all of the other people were Strongheart's doing. I could be wrong.
I think you're right. I think that
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
kind of gets sucked into it, and that's like the whole point,
Right.
is that he didn't really want to be a professor, but like all of a sudden he is.
Right,
Yeah.
and like, but I'm not. I mean, obviously, still, he committed murder, so it's not like they sugarcoat that.
I remember having a moment where I was really afraid that it was going to turn out that like the people who actually did the crimes like weren't ever at fault, because it was always Strongheart pulling the strings or Jigoku pulling the strings or whatever.
Sure.
And they didn't really do that, because like we said, like Clint did at least one murder by
Yeah,
himself.
yeah.
He did that by choice.
And then you got freaking Jigoku, who you just brought up.
He killed
Yes.
Genshin.
Yeah.
Okay, but they try to get him out of that with like Strongheart being like, you gotta do it, you gotta kill Genshin. I think.
Yeah.
Like,
Something like
Yeah, I
that.
can't remember the details, but there's
But then he ends up killing, what's his face?
Gregson.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
does kill him, that's
Yeah.
right.
he kills
So
Gregson,
he deserves to rot in jail.
And Gregson's body is like in the suitcase.
Oh,
isn't
dude,
it?
that,
That's
yeah, in his
like,
big
the
ass
picture.
Oh, that's so fucked
that
up.
That was a great twist.
Good twist,
That was
though.
a because you don't even like expect it the first time you see them. You're just two dapper dads in the hotel lobby with a big suitcase. You're like, okay. And then later on, you're like, okay, how would this guy have transported? You look through your evidence. It's like, oh no.
Oh no.
That's really harrowing. The fact that like Gregson would have been there in that first
Yeah.
scene. That's really messed up. No, it was cool though.
Kind of crazy how Sholmes makes the call to like go to the ship and figure out that because if they don't do the dance of deduction, then Rinosuke's trial ends because he doesn't have good evidence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
or like they aren't able to summon Jigoku to the stand. Yeah,
Pretty much.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's really cool.
in a way, like, I mean, the whole game, if you think about it, Sholmes kind of spearheaded everything, like delaying Kazuma, urging Ryunosuke to become a, defense attorney. He eavesdrops on international communications, tells Gregson, gives him advice. I'm like, damn, this guy was doing everything.
It's true.
And he's also a big dummy.
He's also stupid.
He's also a big dummy.
Yeah, he's both.
I mean, it makes sense. It's very true to like Sherlock Holmes as a character.
Yes.
While also letting Ryunosuke take center stage at the same time.
Yeah.
I love how Case 5 is the first case. No, that might be wrong. Most of the cases have names based on Sherlock Holmes stories. Like, Twisted Carmen, his last bow is a Sherlock Holmes story. There's like the Speckled Band, etc., etc. But the last case is straight up the resolve of Ryunosuke Naruhodo, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole case, he's just so confident, which is really nice.
I remember when I was really into both of these games, I was like, I love Baroque von Zieks, but I hope he's not the prosecutor for every case. And then we get Asogi, but I was always imagining that Strongheart would be a prosecutor at some point.
He's
Sure.
But then, yeah, having him be the judge in the big bad is cool.
An antagonistic judge is a cool direction to go in. We get it a little bit with like Courtney in Investigations 2, but like this is better.
It kind of works against it a little bit, because there are points where like Strongheart really shouldn't let you guys keep talking, but he does for some reason.
In this one, you have two culprit judges.
Yes.
Which is wild. Like, they are ultimately the bad guys in both, which I think is pretty cool. Yeah, but I remember it was such a good solution to, like, what I wanted, because I wanted Strongheart to, like, I didn't necessarily want him to be the big bad because it felt a little obvious.
Yeah.
But it wasn't bad that they went for him, but it is kind of like process of elimination. It's like, okay,
right.
Strongheart is probably the bad guy controlling everything.
He's very Damon Gant, like.
Ooh, yeah. He's just basically
whatever.
a better
like,
version.
From moment one, you're just kind of like, oh, okay.
He's a well-executed version of, like, that Dark Age of the Law stuff where it's like, this guy's really pulling the strings.
Because he thinks he's doing the right thing.
He gets an ovation. He gets an ovation for being a psycho.
Yeah. I mean, that was a weird moment, because he's literally just like, he tells, like, hey, guys, overlook the fact that I killed a bunch of people, because I am justice. And they're all like, hail, Strongheart!
Yeah.
Sort of like something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah.
He says something really funny at one point, which this doesn't have to do with anything, but it was really on the nose, and I thought it was really funny. He's like, Gregson's dead, unless you were thinking of summoning a ghost to put on the stand. And I'm like, would we? Would we really? Yeah, maybe.
We could do that.
I didn't catch that. That's a good reference.
I think also in the first game, he gives like a 6-hour rant to Ryunosuke about like his ideals about justice, and you don't see all of it because Ryunosuke like falls asleep or something, but
yeah,
it's kind of, I mean, it's just kind of there. It's not a giveaway exactly, but it is him talking about how like the justice system needs to be overthrown or something. Like it's very radical, and they just kind of skate past it.
When you get the context of like this case, obviously you're like, oh yeah, he was monologuing because he's evil. But at the time, you're just kind of like, you can kind of gloss over and be like, okay, this guy's just like really passionate, I guess. I don't know.
I guess,
yeah. And I think they start mentioning in either case 4 or maybe case 5. I don't remember when it starts, the idea that like he's trying to become attorney general, so he has like complete control over like shaping the law in Britain and all that.
Mm-hmm.
So it is cool because it's not just like straight up like bad guy sort of thing. And it's at least a little bit more interesting than straight up evil, because at the end of the day, it is pretty damn just like. He murders a lot of people.
yeah.
Stuff. So it's like, it's kind of hard to sympathize or anything. But yeah, it's kind of cool.
The way you inflected that was really funny. He does murder a lot of people. Like, just kind of like brushing past it.
I liked him being the judge in the big bad. I thought that was cool.
No, it's sick.
And I liked his horse staff.
His horse gavel.
Unicorn, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's cool.
In the beginning of the case, the first part of Case 5's trial, so we were talking about how Gina is like very bubbly. It's really sad here because she's just like breaking down the stand like, dude, you gotta figure this out. He can't die like this. It can't be in vain. I'm like, I'm trying, dude. I'm trying.
Yeah.
Because at that point it's kind of bleak because I think this is before Dance of Deduction.
You're also trying not to like drag Gregson's name through the mud, but you kind of have to.
And she gets upset at that too because you're like, Gregson was part of the Reaper, and she's like, you can't say that. But it's true, Can we just talk about Toby, the dog?
The puppy?
In general?
He's a good boy.
I think he's a really good boy. He's a really... I just like that there's a cute puppy in the game. There was a cute puppy in Ace Attorney Investigations 2, and there's a cute puppy in this game too. So overall, both really good games.
There was a few parts of the case which were like, again, like in case 3 where it was like kind of hard to pinpoint something. There was a couple of parts. Like I remember one was there's like the Scarlet Fingers thing, and you have to know that that's like Clint's autopsy. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Oh, like because of the ink.
Yeah, something,
yeah.
and it's like that, and I'm just like, how do I know to what? Because it's, you don't know at this point. And then there's another part to that, which is you realize that Strongheart says 3 pages instead of 2 for Genshin's Will.
Right.
Yeah. I love little things like that. Those
it's
are
really satisfying to solve, but like, damn, was I stuck for like 15 minutes.
I think that one, when he said like 3 pages or one of those, as soon as he said it, I was like, ooh, let me present. Ooh, I gotcha.
Yeah. It's one of those where if you catch it.
Yeah, you get very excited. There was a moment that tripped me up really bad in these 2 cases because I examined every piece of evidence as soon as I got it. So when you get the boat ticket, you can examine it, and in the examination text, it will give you the name of the boat or the ship, but it will not put that into the evidence description. So it's like a name of a bird. I can't remember it now, but
yeah, but it's like the boat that they were on.
Yeah, so that information went out of my head because it wasn't in the evidence description, and so I assumed it wasn't important. That was foolish of me, but it comes up a while later where that name comes up, and I'm looking desperately through my evidence and I can't find it, and I'm not re-examining things because I've already examined them, so that messed me up.
What's rough about that one is that you did your due diligence already of examining the thing that you needed to examine.
Yeah, I just did it too early.
And like, it only updates at a certain point. Because I remember it worked for me because I happened to not investigate it, like, the backside until, like, that trial.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I remember when you ran into that.
There was something like this in case 3. Well, something with the soap, maybe? Where... And the cups, and I was like... I figured it out, and then you have to, like... The evidence will change depending on when you examine it. And I remember, like, you can't present the evidence. You have to present it twice for 2 different things. And because I'm like you and I check it pretty early, I remember presenting, like, the change thing for, like, the first part. And it's like, that's no good. And I'm like, what do you mean that's no good? That's, like, clearly what it is.
What are you talking about?
Wait, guys, I just remembered something really amazing about Case 4, which is that Beppo, the coachman from 1-3, comes back, and his name is Sandwich, and he's like a philosopher.
They never clarify whether it's him, but Ryunosuke's like, I think I know this guy.
That's totally him.
And his name is Sandwich, and he like philosophizes about stuff. I just love
pretty
that.
good.
Dude, the characters in this game are just so good. I mean, we didn't even mention people like Mata to Spells.
Oh, she was great.
Oh, she was cool. She had a cool theme song too, if I remember correctly.
Yes,
her theme song's so good.
Her animations were great too. There was also we talked about her briefly, but Maria Gori, she was just she had a great design. Like, didn't have much else going for her, but she was cool.
Totally. She wasn't as cool as her mom, but yeah.
Ooh, actually, speaking of Case 3, so the thing with, in the same way that Ace Attorney Investigations 2 is good because it has a lot of overarching stuff throughout it, these 2 games have things overarching throughout like 10 cases, which is really cool. So at one point in the final case of the second game, so case 2-5, you learn that the password for McGilded's coat is Professor, which is so cool.
Oh.
And I was like, damn, that's so sick.
Whoa, I didn't know that until just now. That's cool.
And I'm like, why is it that? And then it's like, oh, it's because Professor.
That's really good.
Yeah, I mean, that's one thing I think for me, and by the way, just now that we've talked about all of it, Great Ace Attorney Chronicles as a package is my personal favorite Ace Attorney thing ever. Like, out of the whole series.
I can agree.
I think that's fair. It's very solid.
And it comes down to, I like every single case in both games, and I love most of them. So it's just, and also I love the overarching plot. The original trilogy has an overarching story, but not every case ties into it. Whereas with Great Ace Attorney Chronicles 1 and 2, pretty much like all of them except for maybe 1-4 do.
I mean, 1-4 is relevant in 2-2, which is relevant in,
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
It all kind of ties together, yeah.
Yeah, and just in general. And I would probably say Great Ace Attorney 2 specifically, I think is one of the strongest Ace Attorney games, just in general. But both of them together, combined, is my personal favorite Ace Attorney experience.
Yeah.
Which I just really enjoyed my time with both of them. They were so good.
Oh, also, we skated past this entirely. Iris's dad.
Oh yeah, the
Oh,
fact
yeah.
that it's like a fake out at first.
Yeah, they double fake you out.
And then they still don't tell her, do they? I think they say like they're going to.
There's like this heartwarming point at the very end
Oh,
where like
oh,
Iris is
right.
like, it doesn't matter.
Because Sholmes
Sholmes is her dad. Dude, that hit hard as hell.
That got me to tear up. That got me to tear up really good. And
Yes.
Sholmes says something like, essentially in the lines of like, everything was worth it. Like,
Yeah.
Oh, that was really good. Oh my god. Yeah, that was a really good one because she just doesn't. It's like it doesn't matter at that point.
Yeah.
I think Mikitoba said he would tell her.
Yeah, something like that. I mean,
Yeah,
these games,
I think so.
they know how to hit you with the emotions when they need to, and then there's parts where it's like it's really funny, like that point where Mikotoba is on the freaking couch passed out, and then there's, in case 4, Sholmes just inexplicably has like red hair, and he's like, yeah,
Oh yeah.
I drank something to make this happen, and I'm like, what?
And then it goes blue because he went from Super Saiyan God to Super Saiyan
Right,
Blue.
they did the progression correctly. I'll give them that.
Well, because he starts as Super Saiyan in his base form, and then he goes from red, which is God, and then he goes to blue. So yeah, you're right.
Right, because there's the whole red hair club.
Right,
thing.
which you
Yep.
get the well, I forget
the
their
French guy,
names.
the Italian guy.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the little guy who looked like me.
He looks like you. I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. He's just a little Italian dude who eats noodles a bunch. I get
And
that.
he's real happy.
Oh my God.
No, that is similar to me. I'm not gonna
Hold
lie.
up. Hold up. I need to look this up now. I need to confirm.
Just like his happy animations, his curly hair, the fact that he's just
Yeah.
eating a bunch
Isn't he
of
like
noodles.
blonde though? Or he's red?
No, he's red.
He's
He
got
has
red hair. The
Which
hair
I
is
also-
wrong, but it's
I
curly.
don't have red hair. But yeah.
What's his name
It is
again?
curly. Oh, I don't know.
Like Pepino or something?
Oh
I
yeah, it is
don't know.
Pepino. Let me see. Greatest Attorney Pepino. If I can find it. Yeah, Pepino de Rossi.
Oh my god, kinda. Oh man, I can't unsee this now.
Oh my gosh.
He's cute.
Even his mugshot, man.
Well, anyway, I take it as a compliment because I'm an upstanding Italian citizen.
Yes.
Right.
But yeah, no, there's so many good things. Like I'm sure we skated over a bunch, but yeah, I love all the witnesses. Most of the culprits are fun. Lots of great breakdowns. It really sold me on 3D Ace Attorney. These
Oh
games.
yeah.
And by the way, there were some really good ones in Dual Destinies and Spirit of Justice 2, but I think I always felt like I just preferred the 2D sprite work. But in Great Ace Attorney, there were characters like Drebber, who I saw that and I was like, that works really well in 3D.
Yes.
Like
Yes.
his motions, like the mechanical stiltedness of it all. It's conveyed very well as a 3D model.
Yeah.
So that kind of made me a believer in sort of the potential of Ace Attorney in 3D.
Right. I'm kind of
Yeah.
curious if I would feel the same way if I had played it on 3DS. I'm wondering how big of the technology and just like the higher res helps.
Sure.
Because I remember
That's fair.
the problem with Dual Destinies and Spirit of Justice is just the fact that it's not that it looks bad, it's just that, you know, it's a little grainy and stuff like that, and it very clearly doesn't flow as well. I don't know if that has anything to do with it, like hardware limitations, maybe.
I think so. It's kind of like the difference between the sprites in the first Ace Attorney game and the sprites in Apollo Justice. Like,
Pretty much.
there's a level of detail and polish that just kind of isn't present in the early iterations, which makes sense because
For sure.
it's a new medium, and I think you can see that from Dual Destinies onto Great Ace Attorney. It got better.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah, and otherwise though, I think we've hit on most of the big points for Greatest Journey 2 and just like the experience of all these things. So one last thing I want to say in this discussion though, obviously you guys can share any other thoughts you have, but I just want to, while I'm thinking about this, Roger, go play Ghost Trick.
Play Ghost Trick.
Yeah, just go play Ghost Trick.
Putting me on the stand now?
Yeah, we're putting you on this. You got to.
Yeah.
Everyone always told me to play Ghost Trick, and I was like, whatever. One of our commenters in our last video actually commented on the fact that we have a little bit of like Shu Takumi bias that we had talked about.
Oh, yeah.
And
That's
I'm just
fair.
saying, Shu Takumi like really owned it with Ghost Trick. That is a great game.
Yeah.
It's a fantastic game.
You know, speaking about that, when Nintendo sent out like a survey about this, or Capcom, I don't remember who. I think it was Nintendo. They were like, "What do you think about Greatest Attorney?" And I remember writing in like, "I love this game. Please make more. Do this
Yes.
again, please, more." Like
Yeah.
the whole time.
I know what you're talking about. That was a Capcom survey, and I took it, and I think they like talked about like, would you buy other Great Ace Attorney games? And I was like, absolutely, yes,
Yeah.
please. Oh, and by the way, that's one thing to talk about before we leave this discussion: the potential for Great Ace Attorney 3, I think, is there. They obviously resolved all the big stuff. Like, it works well as a 2-game package, but I would love a game where Sholmes and Iris go visit Ryunosuke and Susato in Japan.
Yes.
I think that could be really cool.
Make Sholmes a defendant.
Oh, yeah. Also that. That's
You
the
would
big
be
thing.
so
I
funny
want
as a
that.
defendant. Oh, man.
I
That
would
would
love
be
it.
really- Like, he shows up in Japan and, like, as a foreigner, like, screws things up a bunch.
Yeah.
and- yeah. That would be really, really funny.
Yeah, I mean, we do have Shu Takumi bias, but what can I say? He makes good games. He writes good stories.
Yeah, he does a good job. But he didn't work on Ace Attorney Investigations 2, and that was a solid game. So, there you go.
Yeah.
We have some reasonable opinions about it. So, any other thoughts before we wrap this up, y'all?
Did anything change? As in, last time we left this off, we had, like, favorite game, favorite case, worst case. Do we have anything that changed?
Yeah, so my favorite game is Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. If I had to choose one, I would say Great Ace Attorney 2. And then I would probably say that... but it's so funny. If I had to break it up, I would say Great Ace Attorney 2 is my first favorite, Apollo Justice is my second favorite, and then maybe my third would be Great Ace Attorney 1, or maybe Trials and Trip, I'm not sure. But yes, that has changed for me. What about you guys?
Great Ace Attorney 2 is really, really good. Part of what makes it so good is the connection to the first game.
Sure.
So it's a little bit hard to separate them. Like, Great Ace Attorney Chronicles as a package is really, really fantastic. But I think I might put it below... Like, I think... I don't know. It's really tough.
It's tough.
It's really tough.
What about you, Roger?
So, the fact... Last time I said Great Ace Attorney 1 was my favorite, so 2 is just my favorite. It just... I mean, in general, like you're saying, if you have Chronicles as the package... That's my favorite. If you make me split it up, it's 2. Then I really still like 1. I mean, my favorite case used to be Bridge to Turnabout. I think either 2-3 or 2-5 and Great Ace Attorney might supplant it. They're really good.
I would feel this. I would feel the same personally.
I think for me, Bridge to Turnabout is still my all-time favorite. I think I can't beat the memories of playing that for the first time.
Oh yeah,
but
that's fair.
I can acknowledge, like, the story told in Great Ace Attorney Chronicles versus the story told in the original trilogy. Like, Chronicles does it better because it's more cohesive.
You know, in this video, we talked about Great Ace Attorney 2 and Ace Attorney Investigations 2. Both of those games have the best case 3s out of the whole series.
They
so,
do.
There's that.
That's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair.
That's another little point in their column.
Absolutely.
But yeah. All right. Well, I think then generally that kind of covers all the main points. So, do you guys want to add anything else?
I just wanted to say that I liked the little achievements in in Chronicles in the Switch release. I just thought they were fun, because sometimes you would get a little pop-up for, like, hey, you pressed this statement that you didn't have to, and you found out some weird information about a hat. Good job.
Or, like,
I'm like, thank you.
You found all of the ladder discourse.
Oh,
yeah. I
That was
just cute little things like that reward you for being, like, a curious player. So I always like that.
I like that. I like the gallery, too.
Yes. Oh,
and,
all the art, yeah.
And the music section has commentary from the composers.
Yes!
Which is super cool.
That's sick.
And they talk about, and it's got prototype versions of songs, too. And they talk about, like, how, like, this is the feedback we got, and then we changed it this way. That is really neat.
I mean, that's amazing, just to be able to get that kind of behind-the-scenes information. That's so cool.
That also has, it also has, like, these weird scenarios. I never played any of them, but I know they're there.
The escapades.
Oh, yeah, they're fun. I played all of them. They're not, like, necessary, but I think both of you should go read them all because they're just fun.
Yeah, I read the first one. They're cute.
Yeah.
Isn't one like Sholmes is defending somebody? I mean, like, yeah, it sounds funny.
It's all worth going to just like play because it's all good stuff. And then the character art gallery, that's really good as well. You get to see like prototype versions of everyone, and you get commentary again from the illustrator for the game.
Yeah,
it's really cool.
It's great.
All right, well, I think then we can kind of conclusively wrap this up. Thanks to everybody who listened to our last videos and this one as well. I know Roger and I have like a bunch of different ideas that we percolate sometimes just for different videos we might do. And so, you know, subscribe to us if you want to, or don't. I don't care. I'm not gonna do that.
Baka.
But, Baka. Well, have a good one, y'all, and thanks for listening. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Later.